Well, hello everybody. Welcome back to the week. It's Monday and happy Monday. I hope you all had a fantastic weekend. And welcome back to Aquarius Rising Africa with me, Chantal. And I am so happy and grateful to be welcoming back with me again the awesome Gloria Masters. Now, I'm not sure how many of you that are watching go right back to the beginning of ARA, the early days. Gloria was one of my earlier ladies that I interviewed a few times. And I'm just really, really happy to have you back, Gloria. But before we get into it, I just want to say welcome to everyone in the chat, all my Spanner gals. Wonderful to see you all here. And so sure. Well, before I carry on, how are you, Gloria? Wonderful to have you back.
Oh, look, it's so nice to be back. I feel like I'm coming home.
Yeah, exactly, right?
Lovely to see you. And I so enjoyed seeing you on our last shared panel discussion. So thank you for that. That was really good.
Isn't it amazing though how things work? Because I've been thinking about you for at least 3 to 4 weeks.
Yes.
And I was thinking, I really want to get hold of you again. I'd love to have you back on the show. I know it's been maybe at least a year and a half, maybe even a little bit more that we last chatted. And then when Danny and I connected and we were doing the round table. And by the way, if any of our viewers have not watched that interview yet, I really want to highly recommend that you do. It was done maybe a month ago.
Well, maybe 2-3 weeks. It wasn't that long, but we're getting some really good views. And yes, such a powerful conversation.
Absolutely, on Danny Henderson show. And I also actually put that one on Aquarius Rising Africa. So if you guys haven't watched that yet, I really want to say, please do. It was Gloria, Kathy O'Brien, Rachel Vaughan, and Danny, and me. Me. It was so fun. It was really a wonderful conversation. And really, so what I was saying, that it was like so great to reconnect with you then, and wonderful to have you back on Aquarius Rising Africa again. So, Gloria, in case you guys haven't picked up from Gloria's accent, and if you don't know, haven't met her before, well, she's a New Zealander. I know we apparently sound a little bit the same, but not quite. You guys sound weird. We just sound perfect.
Oh. Tell yourself what you need to.
Okay, what could I say? Anyway, so Gloria, you are one of these amazing women that has been also, we hear so many tragic stories about obviously the SRA and RSA survivors, and you have certainly been one of them in the forefront. But actually, before I go any further, I'd actually just I want to just maybe read your bio, because I think it's such a great bio. So let me just actually find it here quickly. Because it really explains, you started again with your parents taking you into the system. Horrific story, and I'd love for you to maybe just share with our audience again your beginnings. I know it's not always easy. And then you were involved with a bike gang initiations and stuff like that, which I'd maybe like because that's not something we hear about that often. And I think, we kind of have this idea that it's these Hell's Angels type guys in leather jackets and big Harley Davidsons, but I think it's a very different scene that as well. And of course, now you are an esteemed author. You've started this amazing hand signaling for the children. You are in danger. But anyway, we're going to get there. So I would love for you maybe to start at the beginning, because I find stuff like that, you know, your stories, and that's what I was saying on the interview the other day with Danny, so inspiring. You guys have literally been to hell. I mean,
Yes.
literally been to hell. And here you are, inspiring the world to love and forgive and find peace. I find that so inspiring, because I don't care what anyone says. That is the manna, the remedy, the medicine that's going to get us through the spiritual warfare that we're in right now. Anyway, enough jabbering on from me. The guests did not come here to view me. They've come here for you. So
Well,
over to you, beautiful Gloria.
oh, thank you. And hello, fabulous audience, and to all the survivors there, sending much love to you. So, look, my story is so bizarre as to be considered made up, but unfortunately, it's true, and I'm here as proof of that. I grew up in a family where child sex trafficking was the norm, and from a very young age, I was abused from infancy by my father. And as a 3-year-old, was passed around to his friends and extended family. But that was bad enough as a small child. But then the horrible twist to the tale was his mother, my grandmother, was tasked with training me how to be the best child sex slave I could be. And so this is my grandmother, who was paid a commission. So as men would arrive, money would exchange hands and she would get her cut. So I know it's shocking to hear, and as a grandmother myself, I can't even imagine how your mind would go there.
Let me just,
Yeah.
I want to just make sure I'm understanding correctly. Okay, so your father, your paternal grandmother was
Yes.
obviously enslaved into the system as well, and I would imagine then she herself would have been a child prostitute or something like that if she was training you. So are you saying, how old were you? Were you like 3 years old when you were being...
Yeah, from the time she started training me when I was 5, 4.5, 5 is when
Now,
she...
again, I want to just say to our viewers as well, trigger warning here, guys. I know that this is not easy information to digest. So, and I know a lot of our viewers are survivors. So I just want to give a trigger warning here, because this is not nice information to hear at all.
Yeah.
But we do this. We walk in light with fellow survivors and just hold each other's hands as we walk through this process, because somehow it's healing for each and every one of us to support the survivors through their journeys as they share their stories. So can I ask you, as much as what you're comfortable with sharing, what is a 5-year-old child trained to do as a sex slave? How did she train you? I mean, let's just not beat around the bush. What did you have to do? How did she train you as a 5-year-old?
Well, if you think of it this way, I'm now a money earner. So the more things I can do sexually to please adult men, the more money they can make. So we're talking about a full repertoire of adult sexual behavior. So that included every type of sex, whether it's oral, anal, a few people at one time, learning how to pleasure men, and in an adult relationship, that is normal behavior. And if it's consensual, usually loving behavior. For a small child, it was just frightening for me. So
What are
what they,
you as a little kid thinking? I'm
well,
trying to understand there must be such a huge disassociation when this is going on. So what are you thinking when your grandmother is teaching you how to give grown men a blowjob?
right. So she would then get her son, my cousin, who was a lot older than me, into, sorry, not her son, her nephew, my cousin, into the room so she could teach me. So this is a very sick, twisted family. But the reality being, you talk about dissociation, and thank you for that. And I've found this term, and all survivors will I'm sure agree with this. Dissociation is when your mind leaves because your body can't. It's that simple. Your mind can't stay in a situation of horror. Your body can't escape, so your mind does. And so for me, I was out in the clouds on a white horse. I was on a unicorn, and I was traveling the world, and I was looking at the clouds and hearing the birds sing, and doing what children of that age do when you're dissociating. And just so
Do you
your
think,
audience, sorry,
carry on.
so that's what we do as survivors. And for a lot of survivors, they'll tell you they feel like they were up on the ceiling looking down on themselves. So that's a common
Yes.
experience. But I also want to say, Chantal, and think about this. Every adult, every person dissociates. And here's the disclaimer. When you are driving a well-known route, say from your home to the supermarket, or to see a family member or a loved one, I promise you've dissociated for part of it, because your mind knows what's going to happen and where to turn. Right. So we all dissociate. Yeah. I'm talking about the extreme end of dissociation, which actually keeps us alive, really. Because if
Do
I
you
was to
think
stay in the horror, I wouldn't have survived it. Yeah.
what you said there has really made me think about something, because there's so many, as you say, we hear these stories, and many a day I've heard the survivors talk about being on a unicorn, or looking down, or playing in the flowers, or whatever that might be. Do
Yeah.
you think part of this trauma that they create for the kids is part of, because that would be almost like trauma training for remote viewing, or something like that, developing psychic gifts, or enabling kids to start remote viewing as they leave their bodies, right? So do you think that that could, in some sick, depraved way, be part of why they're doing what they're doing?
Look, potentially, but I also like the fact you've raised this, that psychic abilities, for a lot of our survivor family, and I have to say hello again, beautiful ones, I see you there. For a lot of our survivor family, Chantal, we do have an extra layer to us, or a sixth sense, or psychic abilities,
Yes.
and we learned it, and you'll notice that in that book I wrote, Flightpath to Healing, which is a guide for survivors, I devote a chapter to it, but it's called hypervigilance. And what we do as survivors is we can tell you what's behind us, what's ahead, where the exit is, who the safe person in the room is, if any, or the quickest way for us to leave if we need to. There are
Right.
many survivors who cannot be out anywhere in a restaurant or cafe unless they have their back to the wall. There are people who hear sounds and immediately associate them with what happened. So we are heightened in terms of we sense, we see, we feel around us. I could hear a sound from my hearing was phenomenal as a child and teenager. Why? Because I had to be alert. So there's lots of facets, but I love that you've said that. So yes, as an adult today, I'm very intuitive and very psychic, and so are a lot of the survivor family.
Because we know that many of the survivors are part of bloodlines that are very adept in witchcraft, or whatever their lineage might be. So these children would naturally be psychic, or have some type of spiritual gifts. And I'm wondering, this makes me think that that would be some depraved way that they actually enhance the kids' gifts by traumatizing them, dissociating them, so that they can leave their bodies, they can remote view, they can go spy on whatever. It is easy for them, as you say, when they're in that place of fear and this heightened anxiety. I mean, we often hear people who people who are blind or deaf. I mean, how many times have we heard that their sixth sense is so heightened? They smell, they know. I mean, they sense things. And I mean, I'm sure it would be similar here as well. Oh, very interesting.
I think so. But I also think, to me, the main objective for these people is the power and control. Power and control is everything to them. And also the people that are sometimes involved in this, in the higher echelons of society, are being filmed or manipulated as well. So if they're seen to abuse a child or observe a child being abused, there's something that others in the group then have over them. So there's a lot of that manipulation, and it is all about power and control. People think it's about sexual gratification. No, it's about dominance, control, power. I can, so I will, as well as entitlement. But I think the main thing for me is...
Mum, where was your mum when all of this is?
Completely.
Sorry, have we got a bit of a lag here?
Yeah, look, completely disinterested, wounded narcissist. If you asked me what was the one feeling I had around my mother growing up, is I'm in the way.
Wow. Was she an active abuser in your life, or was she more a puppet of your dad, enslaved by your father?
Yeah, to me, it's interesting. I never saw her as an abuser, but when I was writing the memoir, Chantel, as things do, they emerge in you. And I started to make sense of it a bit more and realized she did more damage, believe it or not, because of her knowledge of what was going on, her refusal to protect me, and her insistence that nothing was going on. But equally, it was all about her.com. So if you're a wounded narcissist, your whole ethos is around look at me, see me, notice me, adore me, agree with me, please me, honor me. If you stand outside of that, you are cut, you are dead to me. And as a small child, I didn't have the cognition or the ability to do anything other than try and survive. And so I was like an object. If you think about, you've got a pen near you, have you on the table near you? You got a pen?
Always got a pen.
So that's what I was. I was an object to both parents. If you want to write something, pick up the pen. If you want to use me, pick me up. If you want me to get you something, I became my mother's. I was a parentified child, and a lot of survivors will relate. That is when the child becomes the parent and the parent becomes a child. So never in my first 16 years of life did I have any of my needs met from either of my parents. How sad is that?
It would seem to me that your mother was kind of like a bit of a puppet Or, you know, we often hear how the men will marry the women because they have the right bloodlines or spiritual gifts and stuff like that. But they really are almost like hypnotized most of the time. So they aren't even aware of what's going on around them with their children. And it's for them, that's normal now. Do you think that could have been something like that with you?
The only reason I don't think so is because she was very self-absorbed and did her own thing.
Right,
And she left him and left me with him when I
right.
turned 11. So yeah, she had enough and she left because she found it hard to live with him. So I don't know about
Wow.
that. It was just they were both narcissistic, but he was a sociopath, um, psychopath. I
Wow.
can't. I never call him dad or father. He was always the monster to me.
Were your parents ever involved in any type of cult, satanic ritual abuse, that sort of thing? Was
Definitely,
there?
definitely my father. Yeah. That was part of the Freemasons, Chantel. So,
Yeah,
yes, satanic ritual abuse was very much a part of some of the abuse I endured. And unfortunately, when my mother left the family home, I was left with my brother and father. And my brother was 4.5 years older, and he was involved in the satanic ritual abuse and the abuse as well. And so, a fun game for him and his friends was to hunt me down on any day after school that they could, or weekends or school holidays, and reenact what had gone on within the ritualistic abuse. Yeah.
my gosh,
Yes. So,
that just breaks
am
my
I
heart.
lucky to be alive? Hell yeah. How am I doing? I'm doing great. What do I feel? I feel honored. I feel honored actually that little old me, is able to actually shine some love and some light onto this for our amazing
Absolutely.
survivors
You
out
know, I
there.
mean, I must say, and I say this a million times, and one day I'll stop,
Ah,
but, but not for now. But it's just, I'm amazed at how you guys got through what
yeah,
you got through. I mean, there are so many incredibly brave people on this planet, and you
yes.
so have my respect.
Thank
So
you.
let's talk a little bit about the biker gang kind of stuff, if you don't mind with
No, of
us
course, of
going there.
course. You know what? And I just want to say this. How do we know it's our time to talk or share or release our story? And you know how you know? Because you're doing it. And so
Yeah,
I think we don't need to overcomplicate it, Chantel, do we? If you're
no,
moved as a survivor to share with a close friend or write it down in a journal or talk to Chantel, it's because
or
it's your
Gloria.
time. Yeah, it's your time. I mean, coming on your show, it's your time, isn't it? It's your time. And so just to honor everyone out there who maybe hasn't yet found that place, please don't push your lovely self. You'll know when it's there because it will be so big in you, you won't be able to avoid it. So I just thought I'd share that. And in doing that, I've now completely lost my what your question was.
And I so agree with you on that, by the way. I really
Yes.
do. But I also just want to say it's so amazing. And again, going back to 4.5 years ago or 4 years ago when Arrow began, and seeing that there were so few people speaking out, you know, and now they are like just platforms and platforms of survivors and people that have somehow come out of these hideous experiences.
Yeah.
So the momentum is gathered, and it's so wonderful because people like yourself, look at Jessie as well, you know, Fiona Barnett, Rachel Vaughan, so many amazing survivors who've been doing this for years and years and years and just got shut down. And suddenly, you know, when we look at stuff like this, it's amazing to see that, in fact, your voices have never been in vain. You know, it was, and I think anyone who's a trailblazer knows that it feels like you literally are throwing a drop into the ocean. You have no idea that your voice is even being heard or recognized, or, and these are the times that we now see how powerful our voices are, because so many voices are going to be what brings down the system. Voices like yours, and that's what you, and you know, that's what we're saying. Unless you're ready, you know, just be in the process of healing then, you know, and when you're ready, step up and little bit by little bit tell your story, you know, and it doesn't even have to be publicly. I've been a healer for many years, and you know, the one thing I've realized, Gloria, is that everybody needs to be heard, right?
Yes. You know, and it's interesting, and I love what you just said, because that's all people want. We just have to respect and honor that if a survivor speaks, man, you are privileged, whoever you are, to have heard that. There's something coming through on the group chat, so I am going to talk about it, and it's around the black sheep. Now, for all of us as survivors, black sheep is something we're often labelled with. We also have additional terms like deluded, evil, a liar, attention seeker, you know, deranged, evil, etc., which I said twice because that's how I was labelled. But black sheep stuck out. So I did a bit of research one day, and you're going to love it. Black sheep are unique. They are special. They are known as the brave ones and the trailblazers in the family. And they're so unique that white sheep look to them and don't know what to do with it. So they ostracize them. So to all you black sheep out there, you're not alone.
And actually, are we the black sheep or are we the sparkly sheep? You see,
the sparkly black sheep, whatever. But anyway,
it's
so
a matter of perception.
we love you,
black
sheep. You stand in good company. So I remember family members saying to me, "Do you like being the black sheep?" And of course, back then the head was down, the shame was bigger than me, and I couldn't find my words. So, you know, your audience may be interested to know that it was only 3 years ago when that memoir came out that I first started speaking.
Wow.
3 4 years. Yep. So if I can do this, and as you said earlier, Chantel, when you're a trailblazer, the lights are dim, everyone turns away, people want you to shut up. You get comments like, "Do you really need to speak about this? Oh, I thought you were a bit more healed than that." You know, you get all
I hear about that. Don't burst my bubble. Do you know how many times I get told, don't burst my bubble?
Yeah, you get darboed, and it's called deny attack, reverse the order. Yes, Scott, you are the black sheep. Welcome. Reverse the order of victim and offender, and that's us.com. So I'm here to say, yeah, but guess what? There's too many of us out there. We're never going to stop trying to heal from this or deal with this or share the truth. And to be honest, you guys, you're not going to have a choice, because it's very big in us, and it's not just who we are. It's actually the psychic, spiritual soul that we are.
Absolutely.
I believe. So never stop shining.
Absolutely.
Black sheep unite.
Yeah, exactly. Nah. I'm a farmer's daughter. I love sheep. The little lambs, and you feed them with a bottle. Oh, it was my best. Best. Feeding them.
Anyway, you were asking about the gang, so let's go back there. I did remember. See, I just need to probably stop talking, but guess what? That isn't going to happen. So yeah. So
it's never going to happen. So let's enjoy the
let's enjoy the ride. And look, and sometimes people criticize me, and I just want to qualify this. We are getting to the gang, Chantel, she said. I use humor. I love to laugh. Now, I used humor because to me, it releases something in me. It's endorphin producing. It's
Absolutely.
actually a really powerful healing thing. Used humor, laugh. Life's short. We don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. So in those times when you feel like absolute crap, find something to laugh at. And I think I'm so funny, I laugh at myself all day long. My partner
Uh,
says to me, "Why are you laughing?" And I go, "Because I'm so funny."
Right.
Aren't you
Okay.
lucky?
All righty then.
Yeah. No.
Off he walks chuckling.
Yeah. So there you go, Chantel. Anyway, so keep smiling, beautiful ones. You are the ones who deserve the medals. You are the ones who deserve the honor. And you know, we often have in our country, we often have people who, you know, the knighthood, the damehood, all of that. Yes, and smile. The damehood, all of these acknowledgements. And I always look and notice who they are. But you know what? I'd love to see just survivors up there, because we've been through what no one else has been able to recognize, let alone deal with. And I think the fact
Exactly.
we've come to this planet, and I know I'm here for a big ass reason. So I've got some big white winged people behind me, and I'm on a mission, baby. And let's
And
see.
you're all in white. So let me look at the head.
Oh, that's
I'm in
just like
black. Look at me.
black sheep.
I was gonna say we're talking about the black sheep, right?
Yeah, yeah.
It's so hot here. Shoo. I'm swimming every day now. It's amazing. I'm just loving summer.
Oh,
Anyway,
Lee.
let's get
Dan,
on to
Dan,
the
right.
definitely the bike gangs and
Yeah,
initiation. So maybe you can.
yeah.
So I would imagine then when your grandmother is teaching you at the age of 5 to be a good little child prostitute, were you also involved in kiddie porn?
Oh, 100%. So I
Yeah.
feature in well over 100 child sexual abuse materials, whether they are back in the day videos or still images. So I'm so old, it was the old projector wheels, and I could hear the click, click, click of the tape as they were filming. But those images were sold, and police tell me uh, ended up in the States somewhere, but haven't been able to locate. So a lot of money was made, and you know, filming would take place in various locations, but the main one was a place in our red light district in Auckland, and it was on the main stage there, and there would be a group of men sitting around, and then
Who
I
are
would
these
have to
men?
perform.
Who are these men that are? Who are these men?
Sick, twisted individuals who derive pleasure. So, you know, they do what they do and they have to live with it. And this is what I think is important. We have to endure the impact of all of that. But I always had my mind, and my mind took me elsewhere. It wasn't just dissociation, but I always had little angels around me. So I always felt like I had little angels, and, you know, you might call them fairies to play with. But yeah, that was terrible. So they would either get other children involved or women. So there's a myth that it's only men that abuse. No, we now know in the UK and the States, research shows us between 28 to 32% of predators are women. So we've got to get our heads around this team, because people are saying, "Oh no, women don't abuse." Yeah, women do. Women do.
Oh, they're terrible. I
Yeah.
think women, in their negative polarity, can be worse than men. I know my mom was actually telling me once that I don't know where, but with the wars and stuff with the Japanese, there could be the women that tortured and the men, and they could choose. The prisoners could choose. Did they go to women or men for torture? And they were going to the men because the women were a lot more cruel than what the men could be.
Well,
Yeah.
and the other thing too is there's what we've done as society and globally across the world. is you always think, oh, well, you go and stand with that lady over there. She'll look after you. So there's always a belief that women are the nurturers and,
Such a deception.
soft ear. So I think we just have to take a step back and open our eyes. But, so the gangs, this was one of the most terrible things that ever happened to me. So I was 11, well, I might have been 12 by then. Remember, I was left in my father's house. And so the nightmare, although it was a nightmare till my mother left, became anything's possible. I had no escape. I had nothing. I was at the whim of a monster and his mini me, and man, did they make me work and pay for everything I did in terms of physically, emotionally, mentally, just terrible stuff would happen. But the gangs, my father would lease me to one in particular, and it would be over a 24-hour period for what we call in our country gang initiation ceremony. And the gangs now will deny this happens, but I lived it, so it did happen to me. So I was left, just dumped, really. And the gang leader could do whatever he wanted. So I was taken out. I'm a very small, thin child, and I was deliberately kept underfed, so you could see all my ribs, because the men and women that would pay to abuse me wanted younger and younger children. So I looked younger because I was so little and starved. But the reality is I got dropped there, and then I was taken outside, made to strip naked, and there were 4 big beer I don't know what barrels, and they got a big piece of wood and lay it on top of the barrels, and then they put me on, lifted me up and put me on, and they spread eagled me and got things at each end and tied my hands and feet, so I couldn't move. Now, the person who was being initiated into the gang was a young man, but he had to prove, and part of the initiation is, for those that don't want to know, that do want to know, is they have to do something to prove that they're worthy of being in the gang. So it could be murder, it could be abuse of a child, it could be, a terrible robbery, where there's lots of physical violence. I don't know, it could be a kidnapping. But anyway, it was me. I was the sacrificial lamb. Well, so he started to abuse me, but because he was being egged on by all the other gang members, he decided to beat the shit out of me. And so not only was I being raped and abused and screamed at and everything, I was then being pummeled. So by the time he finished, the others lined up and all had a go. So 24 hours later, when my father came to get me, I was unconscious. I was black and blue. You couldn't see my face. It was so swollen. Now, these are people who willingly chose to do that. So when I left, when my father got me, I heard him say to the gang leader, well, you want to be careful, mate. And I thought, oh, my God. He's actually going to stick up for me. You want to be careful, mate, because she won't look as good for you next time if you're going to do this to her. So that was a gang initiation. And, how I survived that, I don't know. It was terrible, terrifying, terrible.
Who are these gangs linked to? I mean, we are talking obviously about, I would imagine that the gangs are running the drugs or the guns or whatever it is,
Yeah.
the biker gangs and stuff like that, right? But who are they working for? Who are their bosses?
Well, I've been told, and it wouldn't surprise your audience either, I think, to have the power that they do and to be able to do what they do, suggests they're higher up the tree than we think. So, to have someone walking around in a three-piece suit is probably the person who's leading the gang. So it's all hierarchical, and it's not what it appears. It's not just gang patches and people.
Exactly.
So I think, again, that we're all being exposed to truth now, aren't we? Truth to light time in our history, and more and more of this is being revealed. So, that's a very heavy conversation, but it's 100% true, and there's a reason people like me are out speaking, so that we can please stop this happening to another child. And that's why the hand signals.
So in these initiations and stuff that you were forced to be a sacrifice for, were there any other kids, any other girls, any other boys there, or was it really just you? And how many of these gang members are we talking? 5, 10, 30?
Oh no, probably 50. And yes, there were other children there, but they weren't part of the initiation ceremony, because these people also have children. So believe it or not, sometimes their children are safer than any other child on the planet. So
their kids are there watching this?
the women in the background are usually not complicit. So they're not complicit, or if they're being made to bring out food or water or whatever, I could see by looking in their eyes they're there because they have to be, rather than they choose to be. Because they were mothers themselves, so I could see that was difficult for them.
Yeah, I think in many instances, those women themselves are held hostage. Interesting. Yeah, again, and I do think this is what Scott's saying. Do you think demonic influence?
Have to be.
Yeah.
But you know what, Scott? These people now have to face into who they are and what they did, because to me, you can have the law come after you, but the person you have to face every day in the mirror is your conscience, your soul, and you have to live with that. So, and look, I'm not saying there's always reparation. There's always, a willingness for people to come forward and make things right. And that brings me to the word forgiveness. So there's a myth out there that we must forgive. Can I swear on this show?
Oh, please do.
Fuck that shit. Don't forgive if you don't want to. That is a myth. If you choose to forgive, great. It will lighten your load. If you are not ready or it doesn't sit right, don't let anyone tell you must. You are going to be fine either way. I chose to forgive because it was gnawing at me. It was eating me up. It was taking my mental health and my feeling of peace away. And I thought, what's this about? So I did some work on it and realized, look, I might forgive for my sake, for Gloria, for her, not for any of the abusers, but for me. So forgive if you feel you want to, don't if you don't.
And I think it's a process one gets to, I cannot even begin to imagine the mind trauma, never mind anything else, just the mind trauma that you guys as children especially had to endure. I mean, it's even unimaginable. And, slowly but surely, that's got to be unpacked and healed. And sometimes I just think it's too much for people. And,
it is. But guess what? Guess what happens, though, if it's too much for people? That's a hall pass for predators to keep abusing children.
Right.
So
I
you
agree.
and I've talked about this, Chantel, in our last panel discussion. It came up. By far, the bigger group that concern me are the enablers or the people who know something but do nothing, because they're either scared to or because they don't know what to do. They are by far the bigger group, and the group we must start to bring in to stand with us to help support and protect our children. What are we here for if not?
Yes, exactly. Exactly.
Mm.
Well, I think that brings me on to my next line of questioning with you, because obviously after this, but let me, before we get there, so was this gang initiation evenings, was this a common thing for you? For how long did this carry on in your life?
Well, the gang, I probably went there for events like that maybe 4 or 5 times over a few years. But then I aged out. And so they want young children. It's the same today. If people want to abuse, they usually want young children. But that was only a part of my story, Chantel. The other part was being leased out of a nightclub in our red light district, chained to a bed, chained as a 9-year-old. And I was there till I was 16. So weekends.
Chained to a bed. Was this
in the
some
back
type of
room.
fetish? Was this
Well,
some
it's
type
just,
of
they
fetish?
pay more. They pay more. The more I could do, the more my family could earn. So there were lots and lots of things that would happen. But the that was an occurrence. So to this day, I don't like that part of Auckland. I find it hard to drive through or around that part of Auckland. And Survivors Watching will relate to that. Experiences we've had that were so horrendous, we're going to avoid those areas if at all possible. But yeah, so there was that. I had many forced abortions on me. My grandmother, once I became pubescent, so between 12 and 16, she performed many abortions on me. Nearly died once. They had to call a doctor in, and they never called a doctor in. But he was in the Freemasons, so he was never going to speak. But I nearly died. She butchered me. So there were things like that went on. And I think the fact that there was so much, in terms of my father being infiltrated into the Freemasons. And of course, I'd see their hand signal outside the Catholic Church where we went every Sunday. Notice the disparity,
Yeah.
anybody? So
Right.
that's why I'm so proud of that hand signal, because I hadn't realised, but it was Rachel Vaughan that said, "Do you not see what you've done, Gloria Masters? You've turned this back on them. You're giving kids a hand signal."
Exactly. Exactly. And we're going to talk about that in a minute. We actually have it
Yeah.
here as well. Wow. So how long were you in there for before you got out, and how did you actually get out?
Well, that's interesting. So really from the time I was born until I was 16 years old, and the only reason I didn't have to see my father again at the age of 16 is because there was a court order that said once I turned 16, I could choose for myself. So I was able to leave, and I did. Now, was that easy? Was my life miraculously different? No, which may surprise your beautiful audience. No, it wasn't.
Where did you go? Where did you go when you were
Well,
16?
so I was at my mother's house, and shortly after that went flatting. But
Right.
the point being, life was terrible because I was so dissociative. I was so traumatized. I was so broken that I didn't know how to be Gloria. And you got to remember, I had a highly developed false self, to cope with the years of abuse. Does that make sense, Chantel?
Of course, of
Yeah.
course, of course,
So
yes.
who was I without the abuse? Who was I without being the best sex worker I could be? I didn't know. So that was the hardest thing for me, was to try and find who would the real Gloria stand up. Well, 10 people would stand. You know what I'm trying to say. I didn't know who I was. Now I know, but that was painful, because the beautiful, innocent child that I was, and all survivors are, gets removed the minute the abuse begins. It doesn't matter whether it's one
Right,
time or a million. That part of you is changed forever. And so
right.
trying to reclaim that is the biggest job, I believe, that we ever do as survivors. But I found her. Hello, Gloria. I'm here.
Well, and we are very grateful for that, because the world celebrates with you. That's for sure.
Thank you.
I'm interested to know as well, like, at what point, I mean, I'm sure you must have had a lot of suppressed memories as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah.
So at what point did you start retrieving those memories, and what was the catalyst for that?
Yeah, and that's a really good question. So just so you know, we often get told that if we have repressed memories, we're liars, we're making it up, and it can't be true. Now, we know that just works in the interests of the people who want this child sexual abuse to continue at the prolific rate it does. But I told a friend when I was 13, I told another friend when I was 19, and then I completely forgot I'd done that. When I was 32 years old and a mother, I then started having memories come. And that's quite common, Chantel, when you become a parent, the same age your same-sex child was, when they're that age, that's when my memories started flying. And it's quite common, apparently. So
Wow.
yeah, to be honest, if I had not been a mother, I would not be here today, because the memories, I had 16 years of horror to unpack. So that nearly took me out, but I couldn't do it because I was a mum. And I'm actually a good mum. Who knew? Who knew?
Yeah, no, I'm sure you are.
Mm.
I'm pretty sure you are. Wow. That's incredible. Your parents, your father, is he around still?
No, he died about 10 years ago, but I never saw him again, unless it was a funeral or a wedding. I just never I chose not to, and I didn't. So he
So
didn't
was there,
deserve me.
did he ever make any apology or regret?
Oh
Was there ever
God,
any
no.
regret or?
No.
Mm,
No.
right.
Very big cover up. Police investigation had all of the family against me, and they said, although I was credible, reliable, and consistent, it was a burden of proof that couldn't be met. So they couldn't take it to court and put me on the stand, because all the rest of the family said I was lying. So, but you know what? Truth comes to light, and I'm not a liar. And all I ever wanted was for someone to help me and for someone to save me, and that never happened. So that's why I'm here today. I'm always going to have a big love and heart for survivors, because I know what they go through.
Absolutely.
Mm.
So tell us a little bit about, and I know we've got a little bit of time left. Actually, we do have some time left. I just didn't want to rush you. About what you're doing now in terms of the work you're doing. I know you've written a few books. What inspired you? And and I'm going to put the hand signal up. Maybe you want to talk about this. Do you want to put the hand signal up quick? Should I put it
Yeah,
up?
you've got it there, eh?
Yeah, I've got it here.
If you put it up and I can talk to it. So the hand signal, people, if there's one thing I'd like to be remembered for, please, it's this. So the reason being, this is designed for under 16s to use if they're being abused or trafficked and not safe. We know this hand sign is being used in New Zealand. It's also being used across the world, and it is working. It is helping to save some children. So isn't that phenomenal? And it's simply your hand up, your thumb across, and closed fist. If you see a child do that, and they won't do it the way Chantel and I are doing it, their hand will be down by their side or behind their back. They do it to signal they need help. Well, a safe adult, step forward, please. And guys, are we not safe adults? So even if you see that and you don't know what to do, grab another adult around you, or take a photo, or watch where they go, take a photo of the number plate. Please don't do what the rest of the world is doing, which is nothing. Do something whose job is it to protect children. It's all of ours, I think.
It is so important, because we are the ones that are going to save ourselves and each other. But Gloria, I have to tell you a funny story. Remember I said to you, I've actually seen them do that on TV, right? I've seen some stuff the other day. In fact, it was after our show. I come across this YouTube short or whatever it is. And this woman, the woman is standing there saying, if you're getting abused, this is the sign that you use. So she's, explaining this. Sorry, my chest is just a little bit funky. And in the background is her husband going like this. It was so funny. So she turns around and throws something at him. But it was so funny. Funny with the guy saying, like, I'm being abused, yeah.
Well, that is funny. But look, that hand sign originated in 2021 in Northern America for women that were being domestically abused, and they couldn't get out of the situation because we were all in lockdown everywhere. And so last year when I went to release a hand sign for children under 16, it was a friend from over that way said, hey, don't reinvent the wheel, just use this, because this is being taught in schools. But now we know children everywhere are using it, and adults, safe adults, are actually seeing it and doing something. So please, beautiful audience, the ones that love,
see that,
thank you so much, honor her and do it. Do it.
Absolutely.
Save some kids. Let's save some kids. Hashtag let's save some kids.
Absolutely. Most definitely. So tell us what else you're up to nowadays.
Oh, yeah. So just released my third book, Keeping Kids Safe. And do
you have the cover there? Do you want to pop it up, maybe, the cover?
I can.
And by the way, guys, I do have all Gloria's details and her links to her website and everything. It's all in the description box. So please check her out. Check out her website. Check out her books. Yeah, I think it's amazing what you're doing.
Thank you. Okay, I'm just... Yeah, I might look, it's not going to work for me easily, but I'll hold it up this way so you can see it.
Okay, there we go.
You got that?
Yeah, we can see that. Keeping Kids Safe. Where is that available? Is that available on Amazon?
Yep. In all versions. So it's Audible. I always do Audible books. It's my voice you have to listen to. And it's also paperback and e-version. So, yeah, whichever one you want.
So can you give us a little synopsis about what it is? I mean, can you just maybe give us a little teaser?
Well, and I also have great news for your audience. This book, you're going to cry, Shanti. I have a person in the US who reached out and said, how many schools are in New Zealand? There's 2,538. This book is being funded to go into every school in our country.
Oh, my word. That is incredible.
I would
That's
mention her
such a
name.
breakthrough.
That is such a breakthrough. So I'm so excited, and I'm not allowed to mention her name, but she's a beautiful, beautiful soul and has her own story to share. But I so honor her. She's changing kids' life. This is going to change the story for our kids. So what this is about, this book, she said humbly, is I wrote it in modules. It's for teachers, parents, and other safe adults. So basically it has 11 modules in it. And the first one is on what child sexual abuse is, because people say, what is child sexual abuse? Well, actually, child sexual abuse could include things like an adult making a child watch them masturbate, or an adult making a child masturbate themselves in front of them. You know, there's a whole range, and we need to be educated. At the end of each of the modules or chapters, I've put a checklist so that for the reader, you will tick the ones that you want to learn more about that's been covered off in that chapter. And so by the time you get to the end of the book, we cover what child sexual abuse is, the signs to look for, teaching body safety rules to children. My body's my own. No one can touch it but me. What online sextortion is, how children are being extorted online through video games and apps, etc., to take pictures of themselves. What to do as a parent if you discover something, what to do as a teacher, symptoms of abuse. Look, there's a whole lot of sections in there. Grooming, what predators look like, because there's a myth that they all are a certain type of individual. No, they're not. Could be male, female, could be a top government official, could be a person that serves you at a cafe. It's so prolific. I call this a silent epidemic out there. What to do if a child discloses abuse. I've got sections on tools for kids, tools for adults. One of the education directors in our country got a copy of the book, reached out to me and said, I regret I didn't read it the minute I got it. So,
well, there you go. I think if you're open to it, maybe what we should do is do a show on the book, and maybe we can go through some of the chapters and do an introduction.
Sure. Yeah.
Because I think that is absolutely amazing. So, y'all, are we doing a show with Gloria about the book? Give me a thumbs up or a thumbs down. No, don't ever give me thumbs down.
Well, look, to be honest, all I want to do is save some kids, and I can't live with myself. I can't leave this planet till I know some of what we've done has helped children out there. You know, it's coming up to Christmas. So guess what I'm getting all my loved ones, or giving them?
A copy.
Yeah, to give to their friends. You know, I think it's really important. We talk a talk, don't we, Shanti? We talk about, oh, this is terrible and what's happening and everything. Let's educate ourselves so we can help stop it.
Please. Well, I'm looking at the chats, and we've got an overwhelming yes. So we'll definitely have you back, and we will talk about keeping the kids safe. And in fact, funny, I was going to speak about, mention it to you actually before, about doing more on that, looking at, let's focus, you know, we talk a lot about that, and exactly, we know we've got to keep our kids safe. That's obvious. We've been hearing atrocious stories for the longest time.
Yeah.
But now let's get practical tools. How do we notice if a child's being groomed? How do we notice if a child is sexually abused at home? What are the little telltale signs? You know, I go back and I look at my childhood, and I want to cringe now, because there was definitely at least 3 or 4 kids in my class when I was little that shit was going down. And, you know, and they were usually the ones that are shunned because, oh gosh, no, it's just horrific.
But that is what happens. Yeah.
Yeah. It's so crazy. But I really think that's fantastic. So, Gloria, I so look forward to having future shows with you talking about how the kids keep our kids safe and using tools, all sorts of things like that. As you say, what are things, what do they need to look out for? What do we need to look out for? And how do we actually bridge that gap? Because really, at the end of the day, I think we've gone from a society where, in my era, obviously born in the 60s, children are seen, not heard, except me. I definitely made sure I was heard. Most definitely. There's no ways I was shutting up
I'd like
anyone.
to say I'm really surprised.
Listen, I was daughter number 4, right? Born into all this siblings that I had no idea. I was convinced they didn't belong in my world. all I did was rebel.
Of course you did.
Nowadays, at least I'm a rebel with a cause. But anyway.
Can I just talk quickly about my charity as well?
Yeah, please go for it.
Okay, so your survivors watching, please, I've got a charity called Handing the Shame Back, because handing the shame back means that when we speak or talk about our survivor history, we're actually handing the shame back because it never belonged to us. There's loads of resources. There's loads of tips and tricks for survivors. There's loads of interviews with fellow survivors. There's everything. It's all free. You can go on, sign up to the newsletter and get updates. Our YouTube channel is also called Handing the Shame Back, and that's where survivor interviews are held. So, look, there's a lot there, and I think it's just time for survivors to get a bit of love and feel a little bit resourced and supported. So I just wanted to share that we have that as well.
That's absolutely fantastic. And guys, as I said before, all Gloria's links and everything are in the description area below. But I'm very grateful and very happy that we're going to be seeing more of you in the future. To definitely actually get practical about keeping our children safe. It's one thing talking about it and creating awareness, but now what happens when you do see a child in the restaurant doing this, right? It's like suddenly the reality that this is happening in real time in front of you needs to be addressed, right? So what do we do? How do we prepare ourselves? Because there's no ways that this is going to get less and less. We are going to start seeing more and more and more of these things happening right in front of our faces, because the underbelly of the world is now starting to surface. And we, as good, innocent people who don't want to have our bubbles burst. I'm sorry. I said, I'm sorry. My job is to burst your bubble, babe. That's what I do. I burst people's bubbles, and I know it doesn't make me popular, but hey, what can I say?
No,
I didn't come here for the popularity stakes.
No, you didn't come here for the popcorn, did you?
No, I did come for the popcorn, not the popularity stakes. I love popcorn.
Oh, well, okay, you're here for the popcorn. Hey, can I just read one thing out of the book? I think you'll love this.
Yeah, please do.
This is the end quote. Whose job is it to protect children, she asked. Not mine, said one. Not my problem, said another. The question then becomes, if not you, then who?
Right. Exactly. I love that. If not you, then who? Ah, so true. So true. So true. Gloria, it's always such a pleasure talking to you, and I'm so happy. You see, I made you commit right in front of everyone watching.
Yeah,
I wasn't giving you a gap to get out of that one.
Yeah, I can see I'm kind of no, of course, and it's important. It's important, but
it is important.
Can I finish with a very quick story, because you're so right. This actually happened. So it was last year, and I got contacted by someone over in the States. This beautiful woman, about 32 years old, normally would go to McDonald's, do a drive-through, grab lunch, and keep working. What she did, for some reason, stopped that day and decided to sit down and do what we call mindful eating. Well, we all mean well when we start that, but however, mindful eating. So she sat down in McDonald's, and opposite her was what she perceived to be a dad and his child, probably 12 years old. As she's eating, she's thinking, no, I'm just going to breathe and watch everybody around and eat my food. And the dad supposedly was looking at the phone. This little girl started doing the hand signal. And she looked at this kid, and this kid went and did it again, hand signal. Have you gone goosey yet? Got goosebumps yet? So she thought, what do I do? What do I do? I know that hand signal. I've seen that hand signal. So she went round the corner, rang the police and said, what do I do? And they said to her, are there any men in the restaurant? And there was a couple of workmen sitting at a corner table. She said, yes. She said, go quietly tell them they're going to keep the dad there. You're going to grab that child. So she did. She went up, got these guys and said, don't make a scene, but you got to restrain this man. The police are on their way. This kid's being abused.
Wow.
And so she did. She went up to the little girl and said, oh, I really like your dress, and grabbed her, and those guys got him, pinned him to the ground, and then kept him there till the police arrived. So you amazing ones watching, don't think you can't do something.
That's exactly the type of thing I was saying, is like, when we see that, what do we do? And, so, I mean, I think that's amazing that
Yep.
It makes sense to call the cops, say, well, I'm here and something is happening. What do I do?
Yeah. But see what she did? She got two safe men.
Yes.
They helped her, and that kid is safe, and that's all I'm saying. We can't keep turning away. Let's lean in. Let's save some kids. Hashtag save some kids.
Absolutely. And the innocence and the pure ones, and
100%.
And the sad thing is, as we know, that these abusers have actually been abused themselves. So it really is generational abuse, and I guess ancestral abuse on such a huge level that we have to break that cycle.
Yeah.
We have to do what we can to just break these cycles, just break them.
100%.
Put an end to this horrific abuse. Yeah. Anyway, Gloria, is there anything else you'd like to share with us before?
No, just love your show, love what you're doing, and beautiful survivors. As always, I see you, I stand beside you, and I believe you.
Absolutely. And I know we do have a lot of survivors in our audience as well, our viewers. So I'm always grateful that you guys are here, and I know it's not easy for you to hear this stuff a lot of the time as well. But thank you so much for being here. Thank you for watching. I'm sending everyone so much love, and God bless you all. I will not see you tomorrow. That's Tuesday, I don't think, but I'll see you on Wednesday again with Jessie. And the rest of the week, yes, I know I've got Jerry on the weekend. I've got Joanne on Friday, Joanne Breeze from Australia as well. Oh, and Dennis Carroll on Saturday. Another new guest on, not Saturday, sorry, on Thursday. So keep your eyes on the show. Got some new guests, and well, you're not a new guest. You are a re-guest, Gloria, and it's such a pleasure to have you. Brave souls, beautiful viewers, and again, thank you so much. Please give this video a like, share, subscribe, share far and wide. The more people who get to hear these stories, the less hold the dark has, the less control they have over us. So just share and support our survivors. Thank you, everybody. God bless you all, and I'll see you very, very soon. Oopsie, something's happening on my laptop. Okay, bye. Cheers. Bye, Gloria.